Hi. So Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is without a doubt my most anticipated game for next year. I really wasn't under the impression we would get all this information at once. I thought maybe we would get a trailer and possibly a release date, but we got way more than that. We had interviews, demos, mini games, gameplay, so much gameplay. So now that the dust has settled a little bit, I want to go over everything that happened last week. Some of this information was provided by Audrey over on Twitter, so a massive thank you to her. If you want to see anything I'm talking about, I'm going to link everything in the description below. First and foremost, the game's going to take about 40 hours to beat the main scenario, and it'll take about 100 hours to complete. This is a little bit more than Remake. I think Remake was, I want to say 36 hours in total, and maybe 85, 86 to complete the game in total. The Gold Saucer date scene will include same-sex options, and there's going to be 7 areas just like in the original game. And it's also been confirmed that our good friend Vincent is not playable.
I want absolutely no part of it.
I know. I think that we all kind of knew that this was the case, but it's still a little bit of a bummer to be confirmed. He is going to be playable in part 3, so at least there's that. This is the same thing for Sid as well, which, by the way, Tiny Bronco confirmed, so Sid is definitely in the game. Nomura couldn't confirm or deny if Rebirth takes place in a parallel world, which I mean, let's be honest, it probably is. There's going to be a lot of mysteries that'll unfold alongside the events from OG, and the OG events aren't even going to happen in the same order. There's a lot of new characters in Rebirth, and light novel characters are going to show up too. Fun fact for those who don't know, Kyrie from Remake is also a light novel character. She first made her appearance in a book called The Kids Are Alright. Zack's side of the story is completely new and isn't going to be a retread of Crisis Core. So briefly, I want to go over 2 articles first where the devs were interviewed. The first was done by Square Enix themselves, and most of this information goes over things that have already been discussed before, but there are some new pieces of info. The first is that there's something called automated materia. Supposedly this allows certain things to be, well, automated. I wonder if this is going to be something similar to the Gambit system in FF12 or something completely different. The next is that there's a mini-game they wanted to highlight called Queen's Blood. Queen's Blood is an in-world card game that follows a story. You can challenge people to the game and win better cards. They showed it briefly during the live stream, but I'm sure they'll dive deeper into it over the coming months. An interesting theory I saw was when I was watching Blitz's live stream, someone in chat pointed out that the name Queen's Blood could be referring to Geostigma, which would be a very, very nice twist. The second article was from The Guardian, and it doesn't provide too much new info either, as it really just goes over the devs talking about how Rebirth stands up against the OG. But one thing that caught my eye was that Nomura talked about acknowledging fans of Advent Children. He says, if you play through to the end, it will link up to Advent Children, so you don't need to worry about that. So at Tokyo Game Show, where the bulk of this stuff was happening, there were 2 demos that were available on the floor. A lot of content creators were also given access to this demo as well, and I'm pretty positive we'll also get our hands on it eventually. If we look at Final Fantasy XVI, there was a demo available about a month before release, and the same happened with Remake, so it's really not a matter of if, but when. The first demo covers the flashback of Cloud, Sephiroth, and Tifa, and a certain soldier scaling Mount Nebel. Cloud's mannerisms and inflections are just like Zack's, and it's honestly a little uncomfortable, which means that it's probably doing its job.
You're practically panting.
I'm excited.
Such a puppy.
There seems to be some sort of encounter gauge or ring that shows when combat's about to start. A cool thing about this demo is that you get to play as Sephiroth also, and his combat is designed surprisingly deep. He's got a stance called Retaliation Stance, which I can only assume is similar to Cloud's Punisher stance. Genki on Twitter said that you can apparently warp to enemies when playing as Sephiroth, which is similar to Clive's Phoenix Shift in FF16. Phoenix Shift made that combat so fast and snappy, so I can only imagine how it is with this system, so I'm very much looking forward to that. Similar to Horizon Zero Dawn, there's yellow markings on places for you to climb or shimmy. I think traversal is going to be a really big deal this time around, considering that this game has a huge emphasis on exploration. One thing I found interesting too was that the Materia Keeper is now called the Materia Guardian. I'm not exactly sure why they changed this, but maybe it's just a more accurate translation. This second demo takes place in Junon, and it shows off a much larger area for players to explore. Because these areas are so big, there's a lot of stuff to do, so people were allowed to play the demo multiple times. Just like in Remake, you can also break Shinra boxes for items, but that's not the only thing you can do. This time around, you can also break different objects and pick plants and crafting materials. These materials you can use to craft things like potions and other helpful items in the main menu. Speaking of the main menu, it got a new look. It's very reminiscent of FF15's menu, which while I think it works for that game, I'm not a fan aesthetically of it this time around when compared to Remake's portraits. I feel like the old main menu fits the feel of FF7 more than this menu does, but it's such a small thing that it's not going to bother me all that much. A big part of the game that the devs have focused a lot on are the chocobos. We'll talk more about them in a little bit, but they're these baby chocobos you can come across that you can follow. If you do, they'll lead you to a chocobo station that you can repair, and it'll act as a new fast travel point. A feature that was also shown in the demo is called Fiend Sighting. These are basically hunts for this game, and they have certain objectives that you can try to fulfill. If you don't get all of them, it allows you to retry, and there's a disembodied voice called MAI or MAI that will give you intel on the fiend you're fighting.
It often falls to the males to search for food.
The demo allows you to play all the way up to under Junon, where you'll meet Priscilla. This is where Yuffie will show up. So instead of showing up in a forest the way she did in the original, she appears in a cutscene by boat. This is where you'll also fight Bottom Swell, just like in the original game, and Mr. Dolphin even makes an appearance to help you. The last thing that happened was the stage event for Tokyo Game Show. They had a translator on hand that I honestly kind of felt bad for. He was trying to translate everything in real time, but everything was happening so fast that he wasn't able to keep up. It got so bad that he had to stop and take a breather for a bit. The event was joined by Kitase, Hamaguchi, and
the voice of God,
Nomura. Nomura really isn't a big fan of public speaking, so he stayed backstage and just talked through the speaker. They also had a special guest with them, a comedian by the name of Nobu, who was very enthusiastic. The beginning of this event wasn't anything special. They just went over the basic synopsis of the game and talked about features that a lot of people already knew. Then they showed off gameplay, which... oh boy, there was a lot of it. First of all, this game looks absolutely gorgeous. The environments and NPCs look leagues better, and I mean leagues better, than the PS2 textures of Remake. Oh, Remake. Some say the textures are still loading to this day. The game is going to start at this point, and I think we all underestimated how open this world is going to be. They said that the game is much more open world than open zone, and the grassland area alone is over 2 kilometers wide. I'm an American. What the f*** is a kilometer? Traversal got a major overhaul, so you can now climb, vault, and even swim. Game of the year. Combat looks to be a lot tighter too. Between synergy abilities, ATB, and retaliation meters, this combat is going to be a lot better than before. As much as I enjoyed FF16, I think that Remake's combat system fits the evolution of the franchise much better, and it looks like it's way more engaging this time around. Red 13 is now playable. Look at him go. He's got a lot of crowd control abilities, and his vengeance gauge is going to let you do a lot of weaving between his abilities. Also, he looks absolutely majestic when riding a chocobo. Speaking of chocobos, they went into a lot of what's new this time around. You can catch them by tracking chocobo footprints, and it turns into a stealth minigame. The difficulty is going to depend on the type of chocobo you're trying to catch, but if you fail, you can always retry. You can do things like throw stones to distract them and then sneak up behind to jump on them, which then they'll go back to the chocobo ranch. Over at the ranch, you can customize them with different accessories too. Also, our boy Chadley's back. He's still going to help us make materia in the game, but instead of doing the VR battle system, it's going to be through radio towers. Whenever you activate one, it'll show points of interest on the map, and when you complete those, you can report back to Chadley to make new materia. Later in the live stream, they showed off Calm, which looks absolutely insane, way more lively and bustling than the original Sleepy vibe. It looks so good. There's a request board you can walk up to, and this is where you're gonna find your side quests. The Moogle House is back, which for some reason I didn't think they were gonna do, but they brought it back. There's also a piano minigame, which looks to be a lot of fun. They had Nobu try it, and he had to answer the age-old question. Tifa or Aerith? Tifa or Aerith? Come on, Nobu, I believe in you picking the only right choice, and he picked Aerith. You can find music notes throughout the world that'll unlock new songs to play. I'm definitely looking forward to playing this. The last thing Hamaguchi wanted to show us was a video that showed Wutai? Wutai is definitely not a place we're going to visit in the game, but it looks like there's some sort of Mako pipe, which to me means this isn't actually Wutai. One of the few places that doesn't use Mako is Wutai, so this might be a red herring. We also see at the last second what looks like someone's helmet, and a lot of people are thinking this might be Gilgamesh. Maybe he's the new summon that the devs were talking about in the PlayStation interview. Things were starting to wrap up, but not long after that, the English stream died. But that was pretty much all there was. The JP stream was just trying to wrap things up with some PR and merch showcases. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth looks like it can be a Game of the Year contender for sure. We really can't say if it's going to be everything we hoped for until we get to actually play it, but in terms of content and design, it looks like it's offering a lot. The thing really that's going to make or break it will be the story. All this talk about multiple worlds and multiple timelines can get messy very, very quickly, so hopefully it's handled with care. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel like a kid at Christmas. I am so very excited for this, and this is kind of going to make up for the fact that we still haven't gotten any Kingdom Hearts news. Where's the Kingdom Hearts news? Anyway, I think that it's important for us to taper our expectations just to make sure that we're not going overboard, because like I said before, we're not going to know what this game is going to be like truly until we actually get to play it. But everything that's come out has been so incredibly exciting. There's at least one more trailer that Nomura said is going to reveal a whole lot more about the game, so we can just wait to see what happens. With all that being said, thank you so very much for watching. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe if you want to keep up with everything I'm doing. I have a lot more videos and I can't wait to share them with you. Take care, everyone.